In this segment of the optional content, we're going to take a deeper look at tracking progress on tasks and assignments. In the required content, we mostly looked at the simplest ways to track progress and view variance. We're now going to look at task level and assignment level work and work per time period tracking. These methods help provide more detailed answers to questions such as, are tasks starting and finishing as planned? And if not, what's the impact on the project end date? Are resources spending more, less, or the planned amount of time to complete tasks? Is it taking more, less, or the planned amount of money to complete tasks? You will need to exercise professional judgment to determine what level of tracking is right for your project. The more detailed the tracking level, the more effort required to update the tracking information. Before we look at the new content, let's take a few minutes to review some material from the required content related to tracking progress. The slides in this section are from the required content as a review of the actions we learned so far. In the required content, we saw how to create a baseline plan. The baseline is a snapshot of the key fields in Project as shown in the table. Project can actually store up to 11 baselines for one plan. So when you have developed the plan as much as you can and you are ready to enter actual values, you will need to save a baseline. We save our baseline plan through the Project tab, Schedule Group, Set Baseline function. Once we set the baseline, we can enter actual values and Project will inform us of the variance from the plan. Here's what the baseline setting dialog box should look like. Remember that we baselined the entire project. As we move forward, we will want to examine if we've deviated from the baseline plan and by how much. This is called the variance. Using the variance table, we can easily see the necessary data. Note start and finish and baseline start and finish are side by side for easy comparison. We also see the amount of variance from the starting date and ending date. Variances were 0 when we first save a baseline. As we begin to enter actual values, the variance will change. One way to track progress is to mark everything as completed as expected up to a given date. This is accomplished through the Project tab, Status Group, Update Project function. Project begins to draw progress lines inside the bars of the Gantt chart to show the progress. If everything is going according to plan, this is the easiest way to update the status. Percentage complete can be deceiving at times. However, if you are confident and comfortable using 25% intervals, there are a series of buttons that allow you to do that. You can also use the Mark on Track function to provide more granular percentages. You should also record the actual start date for every task. Don't just assume that it started as planned. The actual start and finish date should be entered for every task to make sure the data is complete and accurate. We used the percent complete buttons in the Schedule group of the Task tab to update progress. We noted that check marks that appear in the indicator column when tasks were 100% complete. Using the Work table found in the Tables function of the Data group of the View tab, we were able to enter actual work and other values. We used the Update Tasks function to change the start date and the actual duration. And finally, we looked at Mark on Track in the Schedule group of the Task tab as another function that records updates. If you don't recall these capabilities, you may want to open up the plan you completed at the end of Content B and review these functions. In this section, we're going to look at updating a baseline plan. Before we get started, if you are working in an environment including project server access, you want to be sure you do not publish your work in the optional content. Following these steps on this slide will make sure you are disconnected from project server while working on this content. Pause here if necessary and work on making the change before proceeding. Publishing files from this content could impact your regular projects, as we are going to change some settings. Whenever you are connected to project server, just avoid opening and editing the files of this content, and you will be safe. For this exercise, you could use the file that you had at the end of the required content, or the file that had the resource groups modified in optional content B, organizing and filtering project details. Let's imagine there was another task that happened in the project that you forgot to record. Before the marketing material could be designed and ordered, Jane Powers and Henry Marcos were assigned to review original artwork submitted by a graphic artist to make sure it conformed to company standards. The work was done, however you are adding it in now after creating the baseline and starting to track progress. The review task needs to precede design and order marketing material and occur after assign launch team members. This screenshot shows the original plan as you left off from the required content. Here is a screenshot after the task is added and marked 100% complete. First of all, you should notice that the successor task did not move out, even though there is a dependency. The task was both baselined and marked off as completed. Go to View tab, Data Group, Tables function, and take a look at the Variance table. The baseline start and finished are undefined, NA, and there is no recorded variance. As time passes, we may need to make some changes to the plan that we baselined. We might have to take actions such as add tasks and assignments, delete tasks and assignments, or make other modifications. In general, a new baseline should only be created when you replan the project, you encounter a large number of deviations from the plan. Therefore, it should be rare that you are replacing baseline values. More than likely, you want to save an entirely new baseline or just update the task or tasks that were added. In this case, we just added one task. Highlight the task that you added. Go to the Project tab, Schedule Group, Set Baseline function, and open the Set Baseline dialog box. Note Project tells you when the baseline was saved. Choose Selected Tasks and click OK. Take a look at the Variance table. The NAs, or not applicables, have been replaced with the dates of the task. You might also want to look at the project statistics. You will notice that costs and work have increased since the new task was added. It did not extend the project end date since there was slack to cover the change. In this section, we're going to see how you can track actual and remaining values for tasks and assignments. In the required content, we entered actual start, finish, and duration values for individual tasks. For tasks with resources assigned to them, you can enter actual and remaining work values for the task or for specific resources assigned to that task. In the event there is a single resource, actual work values entered are always applied equally to the task and the resource. If there are multiple resources and you enter the actual work against the task, the actual work values are distributed among the assignments. This is a level of detail that is appropriate if you are not concerned about the details of an individual resource's contribution to the work. If there are multiple resources, actual work values entered for the assignment are rolled up to the task and do not affect other assignments' work values. You would use this level of detail if the work of the individual resources is important to track. This does require more effort to maintain, since you are collecting information about performance from every resource and must update every assignment to keep the data accurate. If you are working on a smaller project, weekly status meetings and one-on-one meetings are opportunities to collect the necessary data while avoiding surprises. There is direct communication between you and the resources. Larger organizations may have a formal status reporting system that collects this information, for example through Project Server and a time reporting system. And the system may serve a broader purpose. In either case, resources may be concerned about how their actual work values might reflect on their overall performance. You should be able to clarify for them that this data is simply to measure the project and the schedule, a project management focus, and that performance evaluations have a business management focus and include more data. Continue working with your plan from the last section. The task usage view is a split view showing the tasks and their resources on the left-hand side. The right-hand side shows us the scheduled work values for the resources. We will need to scroll to task to see the data for the review original artwork task. By viewing the work table on the left, we can see the actual and remaining work columns. These represent the task and assignment values for the scheduled work. Note that each task work value is the sum of the assignment work values. On the Format tab, in the Details group, check the Actual Work box. Each row is now split to show the baseline work and the actual work in the time-phased grid. You can change what fields are shown in a usage view through the Format tab Details group. Click the Add Details function to see a list of all the possibilities. This screenshot with the 3 rows of Review Original Artwork selected illustrates what you should see on your screen at this point. Note that Jane works 2 hours on Monday and 6 on Tuesday on this task. Henry, on the other hand, works 8 hours on Tuesday. Together these total 16 hours of effort or work. This is how Project assigned the total work by default. In the actual cell for the task, type 10H. Notice that Project highlights the changes. Notice also that the remaining work is updated to maintain the 16 hours. Actual and remaining work was distributed to the 2 assignments, and summary tasks above these were also updated. Actual work in the time-phased grid is updated. Now let's take a look at changing the value for a specific assignment. Here we see that Project does not change the assignment for the other resources assigned to a task and assumes work is still going to be completed as scheduled. To become comfortable with this feature, you may want to type additional values and observe the results. Tracking time-phased actual work is the most detailed level of tracking and requires the most effort. You will need daily and weekly updates from resources to maintain accurate data. This is a good approach if any of the following are true. The project has many high-risk tasks, short duration tasks on the critical path where a small variance could put a project at risk. There are tasks where you want to collect throughput metrics, for example, to review 10 original artwork files per day. Where there are tasks with influential stakeholders that have a strong interest. Where there are tasks that require hourly billing for labor. Or your organization has timesheet data supporting this level of detail, and you can influence the time reporting process to collect this data. Now scroll to review the channel sales prep task. Once again, we're looking at how Project has divided up everything by default. To track the time-phased actual work, we are going to need to enter the actual work values for the tasks and resources on the right-hand side in the grid. We can change the work for 1 day for the task to 6H and split the work as 4H and 2H between the two resources. The overall work on the left-hand side remains the same, but we have recorded the daily actual values for the first day of the task. Actual and remaining work are adjusted accordingly. We can continue to enter actual work values like this day by day for the entire project if it is important for us to do so. Sometimes it becomes necessary during the course of a project to interrupt work on a specific task or perhaps even the entire project. In this section, we're going to see how we can reschedule this work. Project can reschedule work so it is interrupted and restarts after a specific date, the reschedule date. This chart shows what happens if actual work is recorded before or after the reschedule date. Let's take a look at a few examples. Let's assume Henry and Ted need to interrupt their nearly completed work of channel sales prep to handle an emergency on another project for a week. The work on their task can resume on Monday, February 1st. The screenshot on this slide shows how you can reschedule just the selected task. Note in this screenshot how the task was split and the incomplete work resumes on February 1st as specified. Now let's assume later that day, after delaying Ted and Henry's work for a week, we learn there is to be a 2-week gap because the entire team needs to attend training on the new company policies and methodologies. You update the project to start work again on Monday, February 15th. Note this creates several issues which will require resolution, including you had magazine editors lined up for feature articles during a specific period. These have to be changed. There are over-allocations, for example Henry Marcos, which needs to be resolved. And the status meetings which you neglected to mark off as completed now fall on the same day as the incomplete meetings. Chances are that if you make a change this big, even to a small project, you will create a number of issues which need to be resolved. Having this capability allows you to show management the impact and decide if they want to move forward with the training. You can compile a list of these issues created by the change. If you do move ahead, you will need to get the team back together to replan some of the tasks that occur after the reschedule date. There may be other impacts that you have not thought of specific to the work, so you will need to rely on the team to provide a detailed update for each impacted task. Thanks for viewing the optional content on tracking progress. This video is independent of the other content. Save your file if you want to review the changes in the future. However, it will not be used in future video content.